General Hospital will reveal a shadow lurking after committing a brutal crime, bringing a child to the Quartermain estate in the quiet of the late night. Under the dim moonlight, the figure places the baby at the doorstep, wrapped in a soft blanket, and leaves without a trace. The faint cry of the child in the darkness of the night catches the attention of Brook, who happens to be awake due to a sleepless night filled with restlessness. Brook opens the door and is immediately stunned when she sees the baby before her. Her heart tightens, not from surprise, but from an indescribable feeling. The child is like a faint light amidst the darkness of the days she's been going through. In Brook's mind, this feels like a miracle, a comforting gesture from fate after the pain of realizing she could never conceive. Chase, who has also just woken up after hearing the noise, steps over to Brook. Upon seeing the child, he is equally surprised, but his compassionate heart immediately overflows with a desire to protect the fragile little one. Without a word, their eyes speak volumes. In that moment, they both arrive at a decision: they will adopt the child. Brook, having suffered so much from the inability to have children, sees the baby as a gift from heaven. For her, this is not just an opportunity to become a mother, but also a way to fill the emptiness in her heart. Chase, with his strong protective instincts, agrees without hesitation. He sees in Brook's eyes a new hope he cannot deny. Neither of them knows the truth behind the sudden appearance of the child. They don't know that this baby is the offspring of Sasha and Michael, and that their decision will lead to a series of dramatic and conflicting events in the future. For Brook, and Chase, it is simply a chance to build the family they've longed for, but they have no idea that this very decision will place them at the heart of a tragic story and a painful truth. Sasha kept the secret of her pregnancy like a wall between herself and the world. In the final months of her pregnancy, she lived in silence, not revealing the identity of the child's father despite the rumors and pressures from those around her. In her heart, she knew that this truth, if exposed, would stir up many storms. Sasha chose to face it alone, focusing all her love and effort on protecting the growing life inside her. Each day, she felt the baby as the only light in the darkness that had consumed her life. Maxie, her closest friend and biggest source of support, was always by her side throughout the difficult journey. Maxie never pressured Sasha to share more than she was willing to. Instead, she quietly supported and helped her friend get through the heavy days of pregnancy. When Sasha's delivery day drew near, Maxie decided to accompany her to the hospital, not only out of responsibility but also because of the deep love and care she had for her friend, whom she considered family. On the day Sasha was admitted to the hospital, the air was filled with hope. Doctors and nurses quickly prepared for the delivery while Maxie stayed by Sasha's side, holding her hand whenever the pain became unbearable. Though exhausted, Sasha tried to stay calm, determined to bring the baby into the world as safely as possible. In the end, she successfully gave birth to a healthy baby boy, bringing indescribable joy to both Sasha and Maxie. Sasha looked at her son for the first time, her eyes full of love, as if all the pain of the past melted away before this tiny miracle. After things stabilized, Maxie temporarily left the room to share the good news with friends and family. Sasha, exhausted after the delivery, fell into a deep sleep. In that peaceful moment, no one could have anticipated that a storm was quietly approaching. An ominous shadow snuck into the hospital room, carrying out a cruel plan. The figure quickly checked the equipment in the room, pulled a syringe from his bag, and injected a dose of digitalis into Sasha's foredrip. After making sure the drug would take effect, he picked up the sleeping baby from the crib and disappeared into the night, leaving a deadly silence behind. Soon after, Sasha's body began to react. Her heart raced, and her breath became labored. She opened her eyes, feeling the sharp pain spreading throughout her body but too weak to cry for help. When Maxie returned, the sight before her left her frozen. Sasha was having seizures, her breath shallow. Maxie urgently called for an ambulance, but she knew that Sasha didn't have much time left. In her final moments, Sasha mustered enough strength to whisper to Maxie. She revealed that the child was Michael's son and begged Maxie to find the baby and return him to Michael. Sasha took her last breath, leaving Maxie in unbearable sorrow. Maxie refused to let her grief stop her from fulfilling the task Sasha entrusted to her. After the tragic death of her friend, she dedicated herself to finding the stolen baby. Knowing that Michael was the biological father, Maxie went to him and recounted what Sasha had revealed in her last moments. Michael, overwhelmed with pain and regret, was determined to join Maxie on the journey to reclaim their son. The initial clues were vague, but Maxie and Michael's persistent efforts slowly began to pay off. Small details, from hospital reports to witness testimonies, began to piece together a larger picture. Eventually, they discovered that the baby had been adopted by Brook and Chase. This truth put Maxie in a moral conflict. As Brook's close friend, she understood that adopting the child had brought her comfort in her struggle with infertility. But at the same time, she couldn't ignore the promise to Sasha and the responsibility to return the baby to where he truly belonged. When Brook and Chase learned that Maxie and Michael were investigating, they quickly realized that the truth could no longer be hidden. Nevertheless, they decided to protect the child at all costs. Brook saw the baby as her own child, the only light that had guided her through the dark days. Chase, with his strong protective instincts, didn't want anyone to take away the happiness they had just found. Their decision was not just out of selfishness but also from an unconditional love for the child. Tensions began to rise as Maxie tried to confront Brook and Chase. She faced Brook in an emotional conversation. Maxie had to choose between keeping her promise to Sasha and exposing the truth or respecting Brook's decision and leaving the child with the family that had loved and cared for him. Each choice carried serious consequences, and Maxie felt caught between responsibility and compassion. Meanwhile, Michael, unable to wait any longer, began to investigate deeper on his own. He was determined to uncover every detail surrounding Sasha's death and the actions of the mysterious shadow responsible for the tragedy. The pain of losing his son drove him further, facing dangers he was willing to confront. His search was not only to reclaim his child but also to bring justice for Sasha, who had died in an effort to protect their son. The conflict intensified as Maxie and Michael got closer to the truth. Brook and Chase felt pressure from all sides. They faced the prospect of losing the child they had loved as their own. The conflict between responsibility, love, and selfishness began to draw all the characters into an unpredictable whirlwind. Will Maxie be able to keep her promise to Sasha without hurting Brook? Will Michael have the strength to face the truth and reclaim his son? And how will Brook react when the secret is revealed in this tug-of-war? All of these questions promise to open a new, dramatic chapter where love, loyalty, and truth will be tested to the fullest. When the baby boy unexpectedly appeared at the Quartermain estate, it seemed like a miracle granted by fate to Brook and Chase. The child was the comfort they had long waited for, the opportunity for them to have the family they had always dreamed of. Brook immediately loved the child as her own, seeing him as the only light to dispel the dark days she had been through. Chase, with his compassion and fatherly instincts, quickly became the child's steadfast protector. They placed all their hopes and love into the child, unaware that behind it all was a complex and painful truth. Moreover, the child carried the bloodlines of the two most powerful families in Port Charles. As Michael's son, the baby not only inherited the spiritual legacy of his mother but was also destined to be the rightful heir to both the Corinthos and Quartermain families. The enormous wealth, power, and responsibility of these two families would one day belong to the child. This only increased the child's value in Michael's eyes, making the custody battle even more complicated. Brook and Chase were unaware of this truth when they decided to keep the secret and raise the child as their own. To them, the child was not a symbol of power or wealth but simply a beacon of hope and love. However, as Michael and Maxie got closer to the truth, Brook and Chase began to feel the increasing pressure. They were faced with the fear of losing the child, losing the family they had worked so hard to build and love. Meanwhile, Michael, as the biological father, felt an immense responsibility for his son. He not only wanted to reclaim the child out of love and paternal duty but also because the baby was the heir to both the Corinthos and Quatermain families. This was not just a personal matter but also one involving two powerful families, creating an inevitable conflict between love, responsibility, and compassion. The confrontation between Michael, Maxie, Brook, Lynn, and Chase would not only be about custody but also about the values each person held dear. The child, in all his innocence, did not know that he was at the center of a complex battle where love and ambition intersected, and the truth could change everything. Difficult decisions awaited each character, and any choice made would leave wounds that would never heal in the hearts of those involved.